US and Israel's war on Iran escalated overnight. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense says 2 drones struck the US embassy compound in Riyadh, triggering a limited fire and causing minor damage. Reuters reported black smoke rising over Riyadh's diplomatic quarter, home to multiple foreign missions, with witnesses describing a loud blast and visible flames. Saudi officials said the fire was small, and sources told Reuters the embassy building was empty at the time. No casualties were reported. After the attack, the US Embassy issued a shelter-in-place notice for American citizens in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Dhahran, urging them to avoid the embassy until further notice. US President Donald Trump, speaking to News Nation after the embassy strike and the killing of US service members, said Washington's response would soon be made clear, saying, "You'll find out soon." Inside Iran, the humanitarian toll is becoming a major focus and a growing source of international pressure. Iranian authorities are calling for global action after hospitals, schools, Red Crescent facilities, and residential areas were reportedly affected by US and Israeli strikes. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei accused the 2 countries of hitting civilian infrastructure. The head of Iran's Red Crescent, Per Hossein Kolivand, wrote to the International Committee of the Red Cross demanding explicit condemnation and action under the Geneva Conventions. ICRC President Mirjana Spoljaric has reiterated that the laws of war must be upheld and that hospitals, homes, and schools must be protected. The World Health Organization's chief has also described reports of hospital damage as extremely worrying and said the agency is working to verify the details. Diplomacy is also accelerating, particularly around China. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi that Tehran would do its utmost to guarantee the safety of Chinese citizens and institutions in Iran, while insisting Iran had no choice but to defend itself. China, in response, urged the US and Israel to cease military action to prevent the conflict from spreading further. Meanwhile, in Washington, the administration's justification for entering the war is facing sharper scrutiny. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the timing of Washington's strike was influenced by an expected Israeli attack, arguing the U.S. acted preemptively because it anticipated Iranian retaliation against American forces in the region.
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first, before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
But Reuters reports that in closed-door briefings to congressional staff, Trump administration officials acknowledged there was no intelligence indicating Iran planned to attack U.S. forces first, even as they argued Iran's missile capability and proxy networks still posed an imminent threat. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the operation would not become an endless war, framing it as a decisive mission focused on eliminating missile threats and preventing nuclear capability.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both.
In the same briefing cycle, senior U.S. military leaders said operations will take time and warned that further losses are possible as major combat operations continue. President Trump has also framed this as a campaign that could last weeks or longer. Speaking from the White House, he said initial planning projected 4 to 5 weeks but claimed the U.S. could continue beyond that. He told CNN a big wave of strikes is imminent and told the New York Post he is not ruling out deploying U.S. ground troops if necessary.
Already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that.
Amid the rising regional risk, the U.S. has urged Americans to leave a wide list of Middle Eastern countries as commercial travel remains heavily disrupted. China's foreign ministry has said more than 3,000 Chinese citizens had been evacuated from Iran as of March 2nd, highlighting how major powers are preparing for a prolonged crisis. The aviation impact is now visible across the Gulf. UAE authorities and major carriers have begun limited flight operations, largely for repatriation and special movements, but full commercial schedules remain constrained by airspace closures and rapidly changing security conditions. Reuters reported continued disruption across Dubai and other hubs, with airlines operating select services under approvals. Dubai's airport authority separately said a limited resumption began on the evening of March 2nd, with only a small number of flights permitted from DXB and DWC. The economic pressure point, meanwhile, remains at sea. The Strait of Hormuz, critical to global oil and gas flows, is facing severe disruption, with reports of tanker incidents, ships stranded, and a major pullback by commercial operators and insurers due to risk. QatarEnergy has announced it halted LNG production, a move that has already pushed gas prices sharply higher in Europe and lifted Asian LNG benchmarks, underscoring how quickly this war is translating into global economic shock. With maritime routes under pressure and air corridors partially shut, the Middle East's logistics map is being redrawn in real time, and the rest of the world is watching because the consequences travel fast: energy prices, supply chains, and political stability.